Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Had a ton of people send me this story because it talks about tow trucks. This one's amazing. Metro woman wins $7.1 million in landmark case against local towing company. Fox 4 KC ran the story by Malik Jackson. $7.1 million is the staggering amount just awarded to a Metro woman who filed a lawsuit against a local towing company. That ruling sends a powerful message against predatory towing practices in Kansas City. For years, Fox 4 has covered the ongoing issues with predatory towing in the area. Tonight, that woman's lawyer is clear. The verdict is a warning. Let this be a warning to tow companies everywhere. That number doesn't get your attention. Consider the fact that the tow company is still operating, but is trying to change its name. But the woman's attorney tells Fox 4 they're going after every dime of that $7.1 million, and they won't stop until they get it. So the woman recently wrapped up what she calls a righteous fight against the towing company. The case dates back to 2022 when a woman parked her food truck in a lot that used to be abandoned. There were no signs saying you can't park there. When she returned, her food truck was gone, and the food truck was her livelihood. They towed the truck after 30 minutes, and her attorney says that was illegal. Her truck was the only thing parked in the lot that was towed, and for a tow to be legal in Missouri, the property owner must be there. However, they were not. So it's an interesting angle that the property owner must be standing there apparently to authorize the tow and make sure that everything's in the up and up. So if she wanted her truck back, the towing company demanded thousands of dollars. Over the next 2 years, the company kept her truck and even started the process of transferring ownership out of her name into theirs. And so her attorney says they had her truck for 699 days. And again, remember, this truck is her livelihood. So refusing to accept that, she filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office and hire lawyers. So now the fight is over. She's won. A jury awarded her $6.9 million in punitive damages, plus another $200,000 in compensatory damages. People of Kansas City spoke loud. They spoke not just this community, but the entire towing industry. It says it's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen anywhere, says an attorney speaking on the case. Today, if you visit the offices listed online for the towing company, no one is there. The building is up for sale. And if you call them, apparently, the TV station says that they've been hung up upon. A neighbor near a second listed location confirmed that the operation was shut down in the past month. The attorney who represented the company would not comment on the case. So the attorney says, the jury said, not anymore, not in this community. We're going to send a message to these illegal tow truck operators in Kansas City and across the state that we are not going to accept this any longer. The bottom line, according to the attorney, is that you must know your rights when it comes to getting towed. Don't just assume you've got to pay whatever amount the tow company demands. And by the way, a lot of people assume that's the case because they're told every day the car sits here, the amount goes up because we don't charge just for the towing. We charge for storage, and the storage fees can be outlandish. So she did get her food truck back, but it was badly damaged. She says all of the equipment inside it was gone. The truck would barely drive, and apparently she can get it to move on its own, but at most 10 miles per hour. So she did get that $7.1 million judgment. But I've pointed out to you before that there are two adages, two things you should know about litigation that are universally true and do change how you look at lawsuits. Number one is anybody can sue anybody. So when somebody says, I've been sued, doesn't mean you're going to lose. And when somebody goes, I'm going to sue you, doesn't mean they're going to win. Now, it can be a hassle when you get sued, but the point is that you can go down to the court, pay the filing fee, scribble something on a piece of paper, and boom, you can file a lawsuit. But the second thing that surprises people is that a judgment is simply a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper that says somebody owes you money. Now, it's an interesting piece of paper in the sense that if someone's got the money and you know what you're doing, you can wring the money out of them with that piece of paper and things like, sheriff's deputies and so on, and an auction maybe. But the point is that I have gotten judgments on behalf of clients against entities that became uncollectible. And the most common thing that happens is someone will go bankrupt. So you get a judgment against somebody for millions of dollars, and they go bankrupt. And the bankruptcy court takes over everything, and they just say, oh, you got a judgment? Throw it on the pile. And you throw your judgment on the pile, and the bankruptcy court goes through all this stuff and figures out who gets what. And I've had a couple judgments, both gigantic and large. Gigantic meaning 7 figures, large meaning 6, that were valueless pieces of paper. And after a while, I've been practicing law for over 30 years, you do occasionally look at a case and go, we could win this, but we could never collect. And that's a practical consideration that you might want to look at the beginning of a case. However, in a situation like this, if she's got to sue to get her truck back, you're going to file the lawsuit anyway. Go ahead and file the lawsuit. But the question then becomes, does the company have any assets that you can go after to try to satisfy a $7.1 million judgment? And they may or may not. Do they have a fleet of tow trucks, or do they have just one tow truck? Do they have a yard where they store all this stuff? Do they rent that, or do they own that? And so it might take some digging. And I've had it before where somebody dug in their heels, like, we're not going to pay this. And I was convinced they had the assets and the money to take care of it if they wanted to. Sometimes you just got to get someone to want to pay you the money. And it can be done if they've got it, but we'll see what happens. However, this is a big win because of the attention it draws to the problem. And I've seen so many stories about big cities that have got towing problems. And we've heard stories before where, for instance, to get the towing contracts, bribes are somehow handed out. And people are getting bribes to hand out these contracts because the contracts can be so lucrative. And you'll hear stories about someone's car's illegally parked for like 3 minutes and it gets towed, and you get you discover your car's gone, and you race over where they got the car, and they're like, yeah, it's thousands of dollars to get it back. How could it be thousands of dollars? You've only had it, 15 minutes or whatever. And, no, the towing charge is this outrageous amount, and the storage is this outrageous amount, and there's a minimum of 1 day of storage because it's in our lot, And, of course, the lot is never prime real estate. It's if you wanted to park your car, in a plaza downtown where, people gather, yeah, I can see charging thousands of dollars for that to park the car there. But to park the car in a weed-covered lot that's oil-soaked on the edge of town shouldn't cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in storage. But somehow it does. And so this is an interesting one because, number one, the judgment is so large. But number two, it wasn't a typical vehicle they towed. Number one, it was their livelihood. Number two, it was worth a lot of money in terms of reassembling it. So what happened to all the stuff in the truck? That's an interesting question. However, you'll notice they said that the towing company had already taken steps to try to get ownership of the vehicle. And that's something you have to understand as well. Is that a towing company on the up and up that tows your vehicle, if you don't pay after a certain period of time, they can apply to sell your vehicle at auction to pay the towing bill. And so you can't let it sit there forever if you want to get it back. You do need to hurry up and do what you can. But the problem here, of course, is she says the initial tow was illegal, hence the gigantic judgment. So they could also appeal this. And I'm not sure what the time frame for appeals are, but it's usually 21, 28, something like that, days from entry of the judgment to file an appeal. And the interesting thing, though, is if you file an appeal in many places, you have to post a bond so that if you lose the appeal, you can't just do that to stall. And so a lot of times an appeal is a blessing in disguise because if they posted a bond that covered the $7.1 million and lost the appeal, then they'd get paid. So that'll be the interesting thing to see what happens. And if we find out, I will let you know. But thanks to everybody who sent that to me. But it's a crazy story. And it sends chills up my spine because I drove a tow truck right out of high school. And that was a long time ago. But as far as I know, we never got sued over anything. And back then, the towing wasn't that expensive. I don't think people had figured out yet that a tow truck was a way to print money. But So Malik Jackson wrote that for Fox 4 KC. Metro woman wins $7.1 million in landmark case against a local towing company. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Can we talk again about how pretty I am?